All right, good evening, folks. I want to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Jersey Village City Council. The date is Monday, February 10th, and the time is now 7 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum of City Council present? You'll have to press the button.
Oh, yes, we do.
Sorry, she's still getting used to it. So, yes, okay, great. We do have a quorum present. That brings us to prayer and invocation and Pledge of Allegiance by Frank Marr, former fire chief.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, of the Holy Spirit, amen. Take a few moments, just be in silence, get our thoughts together, and get us in our mood to listen what's going on in the world today, and especially in Jersey Village. Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us this opportunity where we can come and voice our opinions. Teach us to show respect on different opinions. We thank you for this staff, all of our city employees and volunteers. We thank you and ask you to bless all of the volunteers who work on different projects and committees for the city. Teach us to be good listeners as the citizens voice their opinions on different topics and projects. We ask you, Lord, to bless all our firefighters, police officers, dispatchers, and of all our city employees. We ask you to bless all of our city employees and committee members that work with us. We ask you to bless the families of the members of all our city's employees while they're away at work and taking care of the citizens of Jersey Village. We ask you to bless these things in your name. Amen. All together, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you very much, Frank. We don't have any presentations tonight, so that brings us to citizen comments. Citizens who've signed a card and wish to speak to the City Council will be heard at this time. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, unless the subject matter of the comment is on the agenda, the city staff and city council members are prevented from discussing the subject and may respond only with statements of factual information or existing policy. Citizens are limited to 5 minutes for their comments to the City Council. The first comment card I have is from Jim Fields.
Good evening. My name is Jim Fields. I live at 16413 St. Helier. And again, thank you again for allowing me to contribute to tonight's meeting. This is kudos to Mayor and City Council, City Manager, Assistant Manager for cleaning up Senate, that house, that building on Senate. I think first impressions are lasting impressions, and you did a good job. Thank you again. Also, another thing that was above and beyond the call of duty, to me, it was a very big deal, and I want to thank Austin Police for this, moving the flags to full mast on January 20th on President Trump's inauguration on a day off. It was rainy and cold, and he did it. Thank you, City Manager. Also, Austin Police will always work with you. I sent him an email about some information on the website that was incorrect. He corrected it. Thank you for doing that, sir. And also I want to say thank you for having there some debris. This is 3 months ago, though, having debris removed on the corner of Cornwall and St. Helier. Again, first impressions are lasting impressions. And congratulations on increasing the golf course revenue, and I hope it continues. I was skeptical when I saw the golf video games. I got a tour last night, on the Friday night for the farewell for Miss Cato and Miss Cootie, and fantastic. She said the revenue is it's really good for rainy days. She had people calling in on days they can't golf. So kudos. I hope it continues. Matters at hand. Code enforcement, again, I'm bringing up to your Mayor, and need your help, please, is that there's vehicles parked on lawns, and this may be after 5, the reason why the code enforcer is not able to report it. So I don't know if the police, if they're patrolling around, see it, can make a note. I know you guys are booked, very busy, but if they do see it, if you could report it to the code enforcement. There still, we have, again, the cars. There's a car here that's been sitting for years, and I'm hoping we'll take care of that one. It now has a flat tire. But the one big concern is a mechanical repair shop called Energized Engines on St. Helier. They're doing small engine repair, welding, machine repair, fabrication, etc. And I'm just concerned, Mayor, that if it continues, that this will allow others to do the same, and I don't think that would be good for the city. City maintenance, we have a light pole, and I don't know if this is the county, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, that's still down. It's been going on for 5 months. It's on Castle Bridge right next to the Texas Department of, what's it? Oh, no, I'm thinking of Public Safety. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And on Village Green at Village Drive, landscaping still missing on the 2 corners. Hopefully we could, if you're wondering what happened to the rocks on one side, they were there for a while, and we had somebody, an elder woman, thought they were nice, and she took them. So if you wonder what happened to it, wasn't your employees. Okay. Also, there's a street collapsing on, again, Sam's across from the parking right. It's getting worse. I see there was attempts to do it with some asphalt, but it's getting worse. So hopefully they'll look into that. There's also some potholes that need to be filled in too, and there's one further down Castle Bridge that they tried to do, put the asphalt in, but it's collapsing again. Hope you'll take care of that. The always signs are missing at the intersection of Rio Grande and Village Drive. They were there before. Village Drive, we're hoping to do this. The striping on Village Drive needs to be repainted. I think there's other places need to be repainted too, Mayor. Hopefully we can look into that. Thank you. And between Rio Grande between Village Drive and Jersey Drive, the Esplanades have weeds and stuff, and I know because of the freeze and stuff, it killed off all the ground cover, but if we can get that ground cover back or something different, I think that would be helpful for us. And again, 529 Highway 290 is a service road. They still have that hole there. I'm worried about someone's going to fall into it. It's still there, and it's a safety hazard, so I'm just worried about that. Christmas awards, one thing I didn't, it was given to a commercial business that's on St. Helier, and it should be only residential folks only. Okay, recommendations. This is extend the sidewalk on Jones Road adjacent to the golf course to CVS, right in front of the foundry. There's no. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Jim. Your time's up. But real quick, what was the name of? You said the shop that's operating on St. Helier?
Energized Engine.
What was that again?
Energized Engine.
Energized Engine. Austin, is that an issue we know about? I know we've had issues like that, but on other streets before.
The building officials have been working on that one with going through the home occupation issues that are related to that there.
Okay. No, thank you for bringing that to our attention, but I wanted to make sure that we knew about it.
Just let me finish this one. This is just about the sidewalk. It's real quick. We don't have it in front of the foundry. If we just because you have to walk the street, there's no sidewalk, so if we could continue at CVS. Thank you.
And Jim, feel free to shoot me an email if you want. And that way you can, during your limited time, you can hit the highlights if you want.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Okay. The next comment card I have is from Will Beasley.
I guess I should say I'm not entirely surprised that we are postponing the sports field. I was not entirely convinced it would ever go through. One of the reasons I was very doubtful on that is, you make time for the things that you care about in life, and City Council hasn't made it to the Parks and Rec Committee meeting in a year. So that's obviously parks are not really considered a critical amenity. At least that's my impression. I cannot undertake to point out a meaningful improvement in the last couple of years to anything that helps the health of kids in Jersey Village. I don't really focus on the internals of what happened very much, but I do get in the abstract the kind of notion that if City Council wants to spend money, they just decide to spend the money. If they, maybe they don't want to spend it or want to do away with something, they then put it up for a bond. And then the citizens desperately trying to, hinder the spending will vote it down, and then that thing will no longer be an issue. Because it's my understanding that we're about to undertake a $20 million renovation, or that's a prospective renovation of the building across the street over there, which I don't think that the purchase of the building is an issue compared to spending 4 times that on demolishing the gym and the little rec center and stuff that was in there, that's been in there for many, many decades. Some of us even did vacation Bible school in that facility. So it would be one of those things. Lastly, I would point out that kids that don't exercise, don't have access to this, they are forever hindered, especially during adolescence. Kids that do not do sports during adolescence will struggle with fitness for the rest of their life. Okay, so, and I know it's important for us to, have a safe work environment for our staff members, but they can, if need be, adequately work inside trailers if the current places are not good enough. But for kids, those years can never be recovered. Their lives will be damaged, and they will suffer for it. Not to mention the debt burden that we place upon them. So, I think that I think you guys should take a long look at what matters, And I would urge you to think that maybe the health and well-being of the kids is actually the biggest issue, not as much the gold plating of every building facility in Jersey Village. And that's all. And I guess the final thing, I know that everybody who's been elected feels empowered to do what they think is best, but I do think some of the mandate that you were all elected with was nullified in the bond election. So I think it would be good to look out to the citizens and poll them and find out how they want to see Jersey Village move forward. Maybe it doesn't have to be Bel Air, Ritz Small. Maybe it can be just Jersey Village as Jersey Village. So thank you.
Thank you, Will. Just real quick, I totally understand your frustration, but I want to make sure that it's clear, because I feel like, just as a statement of fact, I know that some people have gotten the idea that somehow the sports fields are postponed for an extended amount of time. This time of year, because property tax revenues have not yet, or they either have just barely started to come in or they haven't yet come in. This is every year in city government. Cash flow is always a concern. So we always try to time projects based on that. We're talking about a couple months. We're not talking about sports fields being postponed for years. So trust me, I think your concerns are taken very seriously up here. So thank you. I appreciate it.
I also wanted to respond with a statement of fact. My work schedule changed in September, and I emailed the department and asked for the meeting time to change. I've been in contact with the chair and all of the members via email, but apparently if I'm not there to vote, I can't change the time of day. That doesn't work for my schedule anymore. But just because I'm not there in person doesn't mean I'm actively not involved in the specific meeting and the ins and outs. And I would like to add, hold on, I'm not finished. Thank you.
If you could let her respond. She waited for you to finish your statement.
Once again, it's not for lack of me going through the procedural of being able to attend. So I've given my best effort, but the rules of how things vote have been that way. So it doesn't make me less involved.
The next comment card I have is from Michael Terigian.
Thank you guys for letting me speak this evening. I have a couple of different things I'd like to mention. We're all concerned about how Jersey Village presents itself to not only our community but prospective people. And I think there's just an overall, forgive me, I don't have a better word, sloppiness to how the city currently looks. I think that, for instance, the mechanic shop over across from Los Cucos, they park cars all over the grass, all over, everywhere, every night, stack them up deep. If they've outgrown the facility, maybe they should consider getting additional space to put their cars. That's one example. I'm opposed. It's another thing that's on here. I really think we need to think about elevating these houses. They're not done in a way that makes it look like it was done on purpose. If you've ever done renovations or remodeling, they always say make it look like it was intentional, not just an afterthought. We have houses that have garage doors on the second floor. We have houses that they're elevated, but they've put no guardrails on their entrances to their house, and they've got little kids. I'm concerned that one day the little I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, wanders out of the front of the house and falls off, an 8-foot drop. I just think there's an overall issue with if you think about it, what's the nicest way to drive into Jersey Village? How, if you were bringing somebody in here, what way would you bring them in? The only real nice way there that I remember was the area we closed off, which was coming, and I'm not wanting to revisit this, but coming in off Jones Road through the golf course, that was the nicest entrance into Jersey Village. Now, if you come in on Senate, it's not. You've got auto parts storage, on one side. If you come in this way, we've got the car dealership on both sides, but it's not really like a nice entrance. So just as we think about what we want to spend our money on and focus on, I notice that we're looking at elevating more houses. We're getting the government to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to elevate a house that isn't worth what we're spending to elevate it. So is that really the best way can those funds be used in a different way to achieve the same thing we're trying to achieve? The other thing I do want to mention is on this city hall. I think the city council may be under the impression that the reason that the pool was voted down was because we don't value a pool. We don't value those public facilities. That wasn't, in my conversations with many people, that was not the concern at all. The concern was the grandeur of what we were doing, that we were spending $10 million on a pool, potentially. I know everyone kept saying, well, if you can do it cheaper, we'll do it. But that's not the way these things usually work out. They get $10 million to spend. they spend $10 million. And I think the impression is, well, that's not important. So again, I know during the invocation they talked about respect. I think it shows kind of a lack of respect that the city council was able to come up with money to spend $4 million on buildings that they're now going to have to spend tens of millions of dollars on to refurbish. And they couldn't find a way to come up with a couple of $1 million to keep the pool open for the kids. It wasn't that people didn't want a community pool. They didn't want the pool that was being presented, and honestly, they felt like they had a gun to their head that either you vote on our pool or you'll get nothing. And that's kind of what you guys have done. So respect is a two-way street. And there was a message that was being sent to City Council about how you guys are spending money. And I think it's just kind of a slap in the face to everybody when you turn around and now we have a $20 million proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. The last comment card I have is from Kimberly Anow.
My name is Kimberly Anow, and I live at 15601 Singapore Lane. As my 41st installment, 20 years is 7,305 days. On February 10th, 2005, the morning commute was 42 degrees with a high of 61, while 20 years later, today's commute was 61 degrees, peaking at a high of 72. The process of approving the zoning and preliminary plat for Enclave at Castle Bridge began along with the selection of a new city manager, as the current Dale Brown accepted a new position with another city and Paul Isham was interim manager. The Jersey Village Hike and Bike Trail ribbon cutting ceremony was scheduled for April 15th. City Ordinance 05-06 unanimously prohibited the landing and takeoff of helicopters within city limits. Many congratulations for city staff certifications were announced during council comments, and the police department was highlighted for teaching self-defense classes and for their emergency delivery of a baby. The consent agenda approved a purchase of an additional ambulance through the Buy Board Agency. City staff was unanimously authorized to submit a Homeland Security SAFER Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response grant application, with the city contributing an appropriate percentage in future budgets. Along with the selection process of finding a city manager, the search for a finance director continued throughout the year. The current city secretary, Deborah Loesch, accepted an offer with another city, so a replacement was sought after as well. Hot topics during citizens' comments included parking on Village Drive, delayed construction of homes, parking of commercial vehicles such as 18-wheelers, an incident in security at Clark Henry Park's Pavilion, and speeding and traffic along the city's residential streets, especially in the elementary and high school areas. Councilmember Wadaki announced the city received the governor's second place award in the Keep Texas Beautiful competition. Wadaki also seconded a motion for building permits to be renewed for a 6-month period. Councilmember Berube suggested new city manager Mike Castro contact Harris County Toll Road for Jersey Village exit signs, and also thanked Emergency Services and Fire Chief Kathy Hutchins. After 2 bouts of trial and error, in November, the Director of Finance position was awarded to Isabel Cato, who served 19 years with the city and just began her much-deserved retirement after keeping our budget in check. A letter of commendation from Police Chief Wadmeyer was read regarding 2 police officers, Barloco and Ledgren, who heroically assisted in a major traffic accident on December 1st and were congratulated by the council for the professional efforts. Councilmember Berube gave comments regarding bandit signs, which are temporary signs not approved by City Council and JV easements. Councilmember Wadaki thanked the Recreations and Events Committee for Holiday in the Park, the decorating contest, and Golf Houston magazine's write-up of Jersey Meadow Golf Course. The endeavor into the millennium was underway as we finally got used to writing 20 instead of 19 on our now almost non-existent paper checks, and we survived Hurricane Rita with some wind damage to trees and such. The fortitude and community involvement of the residents of Jersey Village continues to march into the future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kimberly. Those are all the public comment cards that I have. So that is going to bring us to the city manager's report. Austin Blease.
Mayor, councilors, just want to make sure that everybody knows we have our new city secretary, Courtney Rutherford, here. We've got our new finance director, Jennifer Brown, here as well. Other items of note in the city manager's report, we've got some of the design option for Ecuador pedestrian bridges in there. And other than that, we're happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Okay. Any questions from council for the city manager? Okay. Then that brings us to the consent agenda. Is there any member of council that wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda for consideration during the regular agenda?
I'd like to remove F6, please.
Okay. F6 would be considered at the top of the regular agenda. Any other items to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Then at this time, I would entertain a motion on the modified consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The modified consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us then to what was item F6. Consider resolution of the City Council of the City of Jersey Village, Texas, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the demolition of the city pool. Austin Blease, city manager.
Mayor, councilors, as part of the fiscal year 25 budget, we allocated funding to remove the city swimming pool in the chance that the bond for the new pool did not pass. As that bond was not approved, the city staff has solicited quotes for contractors to do the demolition work. We received quotes from QR Recycling and Construction Services in the amount of $49,000, a quote from JRP Demolition Services for $65,900, and 2 quotes from Landmark Custom Pools using different subcontractors. One of those quotes came in at $225,000, another one came in at $180,000. There's quite a wide spread for these quotes. While each contractor was given the same information to provide a quote, the quantities are very similar. It's unclear why the large difference in the numbers exists. But QRCS has done work for the city in the past by demolishing properties in TERS 3. They've done a good job for those projects as well. Staff feels comfortable with them doing the work for this project.
Okay, thank you. Discussion amongst council on this item.
I was just happy that it came in lower than what was originally budgeted, which, to be honest, seems rare on anything these days. So,
I'd like to make an appeal, if I can, please. Over the last year, I received a lot of feedback regarding the pool. Some residents believe the city's original goal from the beginning was to replace it with something upscale and expensive, but after bond issues failed, the decision was made to demolish it. I don't agree with this narrative, but it bothers me that it could be the perception of some residents. I was approached by a few residents and even a pool consultant with cost-effective ways to rebuild or replace our current pool. This morning I received one rough draft or rough copy from Westscape Consultants that I think is worth taking a look at. I'm willing to consider Westscape's proposal so we can keep the pool open while we plan for a long-term solution. We all want our community to have amenities that not only keep residents happy to live here, but attract new families. We all know that these amenities cost money, and in this day and age, citizens in many communities around the U.S. feel that their hard-earned tax dollars are not being used to serve them. If we vote to demolish this pool without a plan to rebuild or replace, we risk sending a message to our residents that we are not committed to maintaining and improving amenities that support their well-being. I know that we have discussed this ad nauseum, and our city officials worked hard for a beneficial solution, but I want to urge my colleagues to reconsider demolishment at this time and maybe instead explore solutions that ensures our community still has access to a pool while we plan for the future.
Thank you for reaching back out to the pool liaison and the information you got. I see where you're coming from. You're saying that it wasn't. I mean, yes, I agree. We discussed this. I don't even know how many times in meetings, but I understand where you're coming from saying, like, not that you don't need to demolish it and we don't need to do what the community voted on, but that there does need to be, even if it is a loose plan, some type of plan. So what was your perspective of your idea for planning, or what was your idea of if you tabled it to go from here?
I'd like to table this at the very least, and we have to come up with a plan, whether we put it in the CIP. We cannot lose this pool. We have heard, I don't know about everybody else, I've heard from enough people. We clearly have citizens who are willing to come up and talk about it. I'm not going to relitigate why this, why that. I just don't feel comfortable voting to demolish a pool with something, a plan. We need a plan. We can't have a neighborhood without a pool.
My concern is with what we've talked about for many times. It's unsafe. And it cannot be fixed, and it cannot be redone in its current form. So in order to rebuild it, we're still going to have to tear it down. And we run the risk of vandalism. We run the risk of the eyesore that we have dealt with for months now at the front of the neighborhood. So, while I agree we need a plan to replace, I don't think that we can just let the pool as it stands right now sit.
I totally agree with Sherry on that. It is not safe. It is not clean, and it's not. To me, it's not fiscally responsible to even explore the possibility of more like repair and Band-Aid, because when it comes down to it, like what we were told from the pool experts, it has gone beyond its acceptable lifetime. And pouring more money into trying to prolong that, I feel like is not fiscally responsible. Also, was there, just out of curiosity, was there some kind of subcommittee going on about this? I'm just very confused where this is coming from, since I haven't heard wisp of any of this.
A couple emails, what we received. I guess maybe they didn't go to everybody.
There were emails. Are you talking about waterscapes?
Yeah, I'm talking about the whole thing. I'm curious, because until like right now, I was under the impression we were just talking about the pool demolishment, which has been budgeted for since, I believe, last May. I mean, it was part of the budget process, I believe, from what I recall.
Right, yeah, the demolition was from a part of the budget from the one that was initially presented in July.
I'm just curious how this pool company reached it. Like, this seems like out of left field to me, so I'm just curious.
Well, it was out of left field for me as well. I remember the budget meeting. I know I was new on council. I had mixed feelings about it then. The closer and closer we got to things, and the bond issue didn't pass, and I personally was, there has to be something we can do. That's why I put it on the agenda in December. I wanted us to discuss it. I still wasn't comfortable. After that meeting, I want to say about 3 or 4 weeks ago, somebody did reach out to me with this company. This morning, literally this morning, I received some numbers. They're so preliminary and so draft, but I can't present it. I couldn't send it to you guys, but I at least could get them to Austin. This is just my plea to just please let's wait and let's see what we can do. I know that it's a lot of work. I don't want to relitigate why the bond passed. I don't care about that anymore. I just don't like our citizens feeling like we are taking away their amenities. I just don't like it.
I think we have to put it in the budget, or consider it as a part of the budget workshop for the upcoming year, and I think we need to continue to demo the pool as we plan to do, because otherwise it's going to become a bigger safety issue than it is now if it sits.
And not just that, but to me, it's the safety issue, and it keeps being this non-decision. When the decision was made, it was discussed last May to put back up for bond. This is the second time. This is the second bond that went up for this. So it's not like the conversation started last May. This conversation started well before that, the previous year. And so, this has kept going, and the bond has now, or a pool bond has now failed twice. I 1,000% agree we need a plan for a pool and moving forward in the future, but I do not believe that it at all involves the pool that is sitting there as is now. I feel like it's a major liability, and it's costing us every single month it sits there.
Can I at least have this information forwarded from the city secretary to you guys so you guys can at least look at it? Is that possible? I don't know.
I think it's possible. It's just that we're not going to be able to do anything about it until budget session.
I think we're dealing with two different parts. Tearing down the pool is, like Sherry said, it was a volley of a few things. The safety, and we're going to have to do it anyway. And B, there was two things that failed in relation to the pool. So I guess it depends on how you look at it, but we were listening to the community. It's not like we just decided rogue to tear it down. But I also see where you're saying how it feels uncomfortable to not have something, okay, then what next?
Right. I'm not saying that we're not listening.
Exist at the same time. We can still have the safety of tearing it down, even if our plan is, hey, next budget meeting, either we need to come up with a new pool committee or a CIP of 10-year pool development or whatever it may. I'm just loosely saying things. But we can come up with something that we've all said publicly as a plan. I don't know exactly what the plan you were looking for is what I'm saying.
I just don't think anything involves the current facility.
I was actually curious as to what was part of those emails, what they had suggested. If you needed the current facility for that.
The emails that I received and responses I received were that the bond it failed, but it's a necessary part of the community, and people are not moving here because we do not have a pool. They're turning away and looking at other facilities. Like a realtor had emailed me about this, and that if we don't make some action on the pool, we're not listening to the community. In my opinion, like we said, we've discussed this for over a year. So I feel like we're listening. It's hard to get a unanimous vote on what we all think a pool should be. I think we can all agree that it's a good amenity. But how that looks, you have to remember that the bond was close to a 50-50 split. So there's a large chunk that wants a nice pool. There's a large chunk that wants the nostalgic pool. And I see both sides, and I agree both could be good, but it's just a really tricky dance because there's not a very distinct majority on this idea, which makes it, like Jen said, it just feels like it just keeps bouncing around.
And I'll be honest, it just kind of makes me wonder where this all started from. Was this, have you been involved in this?
I received the email this morning at 9:07 a.m.
Okay, so it's not like it's been this ongoing project that council's just been unaware of, or I'm just trying to make sure that everything's up front here, that this isn't some kind of people are in corners working on stuff and we're not being upfront with everybody about. This is just something that has just recently truly come up.
I'm telling you, a few weeks ago, someone reached out to me, said, hey, I got an idea. I said, send me your idea. And I never got it. And finally, he called me this morning at 9 o'clock this morning and said, did you get it? And I said, no, he sent it to the wrong email. Here's my email. And I shot it right over to Austin. And that's exactly how, there's nobody that put me up to this, nobody I'm in cahoots with. This was an issue that I heard about and listened to last year throughout the whole year. It bothered me throughout the whole year. And I mean, this is it. This is my last
I
try.
get it. I totally do. And thank you for clarifying that. I just wanted to make sure I understood where this was all coming from. I got to be honest, I do see it as two separate issues, and I'm personally, my opinion is going to be, I think the chapter on the pool has closed as far as the current pool. I am happy, very happy about talking about what's going to happen moving forward. I think that, again, is part of the budget conversations, but I don't think it involves the current pool.
And the email and text that I've gotten were like within the last 3 days. So I don't know. I'm not really on social media that often, so I don't know if anything stirred up, but it's very recent.
Well, I think she's referring to like the specific company that reached out to me. Like maybe if I was working with someone, and I have not been working with anyone. This was just me.
It's a former council member.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the proposal, so Harry Beckwith, who actually used to be on city council, he about 10 years ago. I need to turn that off. And Harry's proposal appears to be a replacement, not doing something with the current pool. So that feels like it's neither here nor there because it would still require demolition of the current pool. So what we would do tonight has zero impact on this proposal or any future proposal for a new pool.
I know, but I'm just uncomfortable with, sorry to interrupt, but I'm uncomfortable with no plan.
I think there is a plan.
Unfortunately, the timing of the plan is budget sessions. We can't do anything about it now because we don't have any money in the budget to do anything about it now.
I think we also have to be clear that we've gone out with requests for citizens to approve bonds twice, and I think that one of the big problems with our approach the first two times has been the rush to get it done because we felt like we needed to get it done quickly. The reason, at least for me, why I encouraged council to take a moment, take a breath, get as much feedback as possible, give everyone a chance to just sort of, get a little distance from the last proposals and rethink how we're going to approach this is because rushing to get something done was, I think, part of the problem the last time. And so for the purpose of tonight's meeting, I think the only thing that would keep us from doing something regarding demolition tonight is if for anyone there was a reasonable expectation that either a repair or a renovation would either be feasible or would be economically in the best interest of the city. My hope would be that it's clear by now from all of the data that we've been given by one of the leading aquatics firms in the country is that the options for repair or renovation don't come with any guarantees whatsoever, meaning that you could sink money into them and still continue to have the same problems that we have today. And on top of that, they would cost on an annual basis approximately the same amount as the quote-unquote gold-plated cabana design that citizens have derided since it was first put in front of them. So if they don't believe that we should be spending that kind of money, I would hope that they would agree with us that we sure as hell shouldn't be spending that kind of money to put a Band-Aid on a pool, not even knowing if that's going to solve the problem. So I think from that perspective, it becomes clear that repair and refurbishment is not an option, and therefore demolition needs to happen. Any plan under the sun going forward that makes even a small bit of sense begins with the proposal tonight to demolish that pool, because it needs to be a new pool.
I was waiting for the email or to hear Councilor Rossi out. Just to, some things require the shell, like a refurbishment if they were going to redo the pipes, which I know is a major reason why we wouldn't want to repair or the refurb option produced by the consultants, then I might be swayed. Otherwise, certainly it looks like it was just a tear down rebuild, and part of that is having to tear it down. I think if there's a rebuild, we can discuss that further in May or events leading up to May or whatever we decide on that. So yeah, I think I want a pool just as bad as the next person, if not more. I think I'm blood type CL, or at least grew up that way. But
I did want to say something. I wanted to commend the city. I noticed in the weekly report that they did reach out with a company to see about what things and what pool equipment, what we possibly could even be selling, like what can be salvaged and sold to recoup some costs, which I also wanted to say I do appreciate that, and I appreciate the diligence that's being done with that. I do think that goes without saying that you're doing all the things that we want to be done with that when it comes to that. So thank you for that.
So I also, with the email quote from Mr. Beckler, he had demolition and haul out at $50,000. So the quote that we have for this one. But I do also want to clarify that the pool, the restroom building where the pool is, that will stay because there's still some use to there with some storage stuff and also restroom use and stuff like that. But the pump house will need to be removed. The whole pool, we're going to save the shade structure that was part of the kiddie pool, and we'll have to do a little bit of electrical work just to keep all the splash pad and everything running. That's a couple $1,000 that'll be under just separate with an electrician. So we'll be under budget. We'll sell some of this stuff to go back into the fund. But happy to have a great conversation on the future of a pool during the budget sessions in May.
Any other discussion on this item? If there are none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-10.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? Okay. Got it. Okay. So by a vote of 4-1, the resolution passes. That brings us to our regular agenda, item G1, consider ordinance number 2025-05, amending the capital replacement budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025, in the amount not to exceed $73,900 by increasing expense line item 0772-6574, Vehicles Fire Department, approving the proposal from Chastang Ford to acquire a chassis for the ambulance schedule to be replaced in 2027, and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents with Chastang Ford concerning this purchase. Mark Bitts, Fire Chief.
Evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, we replace our ambulance units every 10 years. The next ambulance to be replaced is in 2026-2027 budget. However, just like the fire trucks, it's under a 34-month pre-build. So we are asking for the money to purchase the chassis right now. That's your budget amendment in there, and allowing the city manager to sign any contracts that come with that. We have to have the chassis in our possession before Fraser Ambulance will put it into their line for build. Their current line is 24 months. So we are looking at 29 to 34 months before we would get the ambulance. So head of the game here, it's 5 to 10 months before we see the chassis, and then we can get in line for the ambulance. So that's what the budget amendment is here for. Any questions?
Questions from council?
Mayor, can I add one thing that might clear up any questions that I have?
Sure, of course.
We currently have about $355,000 set aside for this project. It's already in the capital replacement fund, so we're just moving that money from that fund into the expense line because we weren't really expecting to have to spend that this year. So that's why this budget amendment's before you tonight.
And I certainly didn't think it was going to be 34 months before we have to get in line here. It's crazy.
I got to be honest, this just makes me wonder, are these companies public? Can I invest? Because if you need a 34-month lead time and there's that many people in line, I'm feeling like that's a solid business plan.
There's a article a couple of weeks ago about, I think it was in a government magazine about how private equity has taken over some of these companies, and they draw a correlation between costs going up and lead times going up and these things.
Now, I will ask, Chief, is that still on schedule with what y'all anticipated as far as the plan? Okay, good. So that's what matters.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be 29 or 34 months, but that's what we do. We plan well ahead in advance just to make sure we're making the phone calls, and it's currently have to have the chassis in our possession, and then it's 2 years to build the ambulance.
That makes sense. And that's consistent with what we've done before. Yeah. So, and it sounds like if I'm reading you correctly, Austin, as far as what you were saying, is that it's not like this money wasn't expected to be used. It's just you didn't expect to have it in this year's budget.
Right. We were expecting for next year's fiscal budget we'd have to start doing these things, but calling up saying, "Hey, what's the price?" And like, "Hey, we need it now." So that's why
this is literally just pushing money around on paper. Yeah.
So this is a lesson learned for 36 months from now when we have to do the next one or something to that. I guess it would be 5 years from now, right?
Yeah, 5 years after. Yeah, 2 more years from now we'll do the same thing again for the next ambulance. It's crazy.
I was actually surprised to find out they're not 4-wheel drive.
I guess good thing they don't have to go off-road, right?
And for those curious, I did a quick lookup on these costs, and I mean, obviously it goes through the state approved by program, but this is not an upscale in government expense. They're not coming at us. This is, if you looked it up on the internet, this is what these things cost. I mean, so it's general. We probably are getting some sort of discount, I mean, as well. So
we're actually saving $50 by having them delete, it's what it says, the carpet.
Those WeatherTech mats they're replacing them with?
All I'm saying, it says carpet delete.
The chassis is under state contract, so yeah.
I mean, but what I'm saying is we're getting a maybe not a deal, but we're not, because we're government or something like that, paying more. So,
anything further on this item? Seems pretty straightforward to me. I would entertain a motion if y'all are ready.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-05.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Wasson. We've got a second by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchum. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The ordinance passes unanimously. That brings us to item G2, consider resolution 2025-08, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for FMA program home elevations grant administration and project management services with Jeffrey S. Ward and Associates. Austin Blease, city manager.
Mayor and councilors, the grant application for home elevations submitted as part of the FY23 FEMA flood mitigation assistance was identified for further review by FEMA. We believe that that'll be finished over the next few months. We should receive that final agreement in spring, maybe the summer of 2025. As part of that, funds were included to pay third-party grant administrator. As we were anticipating the final award, we went out for RFQ for those. We had 2 companies submit. Those proposals were reviewed by 3 people, myself, the police chief, and Laura Capps. The rankings there came in, and as you can see in the packet, Jeffrey S. Ward and Associates is the one that was ranked the highest. We have worked with him since the fiscal year 2017. He actually worked with the city back in 2002, I believe it was as well, so he's got a great understanding of this program. We would not enter into any contract or spend any money on this until the grant has been officially awarded. At this time, we believe the grant funding will still come. However, there is some uncertainty with some of the presidential executive orders that have taken place over the last few weeks. The cost split on this is based upon the number of homes in the grant that are insured repetitive loss or SRL. So we do have a little bit of cost match with this one as well, but we are fairly confident that this will come through in the spring, but we won't be signing any contracts until that does.
Okay. Discussion amongst council on this item.
That was going to be my question. If we don't sign the agreement if the grant isn't approved.
Correct.
Austin, I recall the name Jeffrey S. Ward and Associates. Have they been our contractor for a majority of these?
Since 2017, they've done. They've won every bid. In a few years, we've only had them as the only person bidding on this.
And it looks by the scores on the work performance, we've been happy with our, okay. Yes. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Also, I just have a super quick question, and it's vaguely related, just enough to keep me in good on state law. Can you tell us, are these grants, can they be used for just any kind of flood mitigation project?
These are specific for home elevations. The project work plan that was submitted as part of the grant states that we would build them up 3 feet above the 100-year floodplain. The state is very strict as to what can or cannot be done. That goes down to everything, like even the split face blocks and everything. Any extra work that is done, we've taken the stance that we aren't going to commingle grant funds with any extra works that a homeowner might want done. That's 2 separate contracts. We strongly encourage 2 separate companies to do that. It's just easier, cleaner. When you start adding in extra things to a home elevation, that adds to the cost, which impacts the benefit cost ratio and actually could pull a home out of the grant funding for that. So everything's very strict as what we can and cannot do under the strict FEMA guidelines.
Yeah, I'll just say, just generally, because since this was raised during public comment, yeah, some of the home elevations are not as nice and glitzy as somebody that maybe had an opportunity and the means to be able to rebuild their home, and good for them. I'm glad that they have the means to be able to do that themselves. There are a lot of families out there that don't have that option. And so we're not talking about numbers on a sheet. We're not talking about numbers and property taxes. We're not talking about numbers in terms of the value of property, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about a family whose home is in constant danger every year of flooding, of those folks having to tear their sheetrock out yet again and to wait to have to repair yet again, usually with flood insurance money. And when those claims come again and again and again, yeah, there's numbers, there's money that's spent over and over again, sometimes multiples of that home's value. But more importantly, there's a family whose entire life gets upended for months and months on end because of that flood. And if we can elevate those homes and give them some peace of mind and get them out of that floodplain, then I'm sorry if you don't like how it looks, but I'm going to do that every time if I can give those folks that chance. So this is a no-brainer to me. I don't know about y'all.
Can we just make a motion? I'll approve, or I'm sorry, I'll make a motion for approve 2025-08.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2025-08. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes unanimously. That brings us to item G3, consider resolution 2025-09, selecting contractors to complete home elevation work in relation to the fiscal year 2023 FEMA Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant. Austin Blees, City Manager.
Mayor and Councilors, this one's for the contractors that actually do the work to elevate the homes. We put out for RFQ, we received 2 contractors that submitted proposals. Since there's only 2 homes in this in this round here, we only need 2 contractors to do that. So staff is recommending Architectura and Allied Foundation for those 2. Architectura has done work in the city before. Allied Foundation has done home elevations. We feel confident that they can handle this work as well. So, once again, no money would be spent until final grant contracts come in, and we would work just like we did with the grant administration you just approved as to the timing on this.
Austin, remind me, we don't choose who does the work. The homeowner works it out, correct?
We pre-qualify the contractor, so in this case there's 2, and then the homeowner meets with both of the contractors. Both contractors submit bids, and we make sure that the bids are within budget, but otherwise the homeowner has the final say as to who they select to do the work.
And with that work is obviously the lift, right? And I guess stairs, wooden stairs or something of that nature?
Wooden stairs with the standard platform, the basic steps. If anybody wants anything fancier, nicer, different, that's a different contract and a different time on a different permit, just so we're not commingling any extra work with grant funds.
And Austin, regarding steps to these elevated homes and railing, are they required by our current city code to put some sort of railing in place?
Right. Every code requires that. So if there's not railings now, it's because they still have an active permit. They're still working on it. Railings will be done before the final building permit signed off on. Council will recall that previously we've addressed the issue of garage doors on second floors. It looks like one's coming out or came out already. That'll get taken care of. So we've taken care of that issue for future times.
So you tell me the construction's taking folks a little bit of time.
Correct.
But not exactly a new issue for anyone. Okay. Anyone else got any other questions or comments on this item?
No, I mean, I wish FEMA would budget for some extras, right? But at the end of the day, I think, Mayor, you said it right, that these people are getting out of flood's harm's way. And luckily, we haven't had one of those, and all it takes is Mother Nature to say, here's 3 inches of rain in 30 minutes. And
yeah, we have been very lucky, and we made a lot of investments in flood mitigation. We have gotten a lot of people out. Not looking for the next time we have to test all of our efforts, but the faster we can get people out of there, the better. All right, unless anyone else has anything to add, I would entertain a motion on this resolution.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2025-09.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes unanimously. That brings us to item G4, consider ordinance 2025-06, amending the golf course budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025 in the amount not to exceed $26,000 by increasing revenue line item 118085551 green fees and by increasing expense line item 11877010 capital improvement, approving the proposal from Facility Solutions Group to provide lighting at the driving range, and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents with Facility Solutions Group for these services. Robert Bassford, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff is bringing this budget amendment with a net zero impact to adjust the green fees revenue line item to offset an adjustment to our capital improvement line item for the purchase of driving range lights. At the beginning of this year, the golf course budget held $120,000 in their capital improvement line item for the purchase of greens covers and the driving range lighting project. The final pricing for both of these projects came in $25,800 more than originally estimated. The golf course is currently ahead of their revenue in the first quarter by a significant amount and expects to exceed the targeted revenue for this fiscal year. The contractor performing the work on the project is Facility Solutions Group, and they are a member of Buy Board. It was also the lowest bid of 3 quotes. Staff has expressed significant importance pertaining to minimal lighting pollution for our residents, and the contractor designed a lighting layout to ensure a 0-foot candle output outside of the property, referenced on page 6 of Exhibit A. With the temporary lights that we have been put up to prove the concept, if this would work or not, we've had a bit of light pollution, so I just wanted to make it aware that we address that concern in this proposal. These new lights would have shields to keep the light pointed down and not be visible, and not to be a visible ball of light in the neighborhood. We believe it's best to move forward with the alternate in the quote to provide the boring and installation of the conduit as well as the lights, which brings this total project to $92,807. And our recommended motion is to approve ordinance 2025-06.
Okay, discussion amongst council on this item.
I did have a question. I did notice that the company you said is the that y'all have chosen, or that is the lowest bid, correct? I want to make sure I read that correctly.
Yes, they're a member of Buy Board, and they're just so happen to be the lowest of 3. I went to all Buy Board contractors and requested a quote. They just came back late.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I know we typically, I know it's about making sure that we're spending our money wisely. I just also want to make sure we're spending our money wisely, not just choosing the lowest because it's the lowest, and making sure that it is going to be well done.
Yes, they're a reputable company, and it shows that we've used them in 2017. And I've heard good things from the projects that they do. They do a lot of pickleball courts and basketball courts in the region as well.
Okay, thank you.
Well, congrats to the golf course for exceeding expectations on revenue and being able to allocate this over to an additional project. And so these lights also could even further our ROI by giving an additional time for the golfers to be out there.
Yeah, the intention behind this was to provide revenue in the evening hours of like the winter months when it gets dark at 4:30 p.m. But also in some of the summer months, a lot of golfers are asked to leave at 7:30, because the sun's going down and we need to clean the range. So this would allow for an extra hour and a half of hitting each day.
Are there plans? I guess plans can always change, but to run these in the morning as well?
Yeah, we can most certainly run them anytime customers recommend. Yeah.
And this is on the driving range?
Yes.
Just to make a point, this is self-funded. The golf course is paying for this out of revenue that it has generated. So we are not subsidizing it in any way, shape, or form. I was surprised, maybe I shouldn't have been, when we were out on Friday night. There must have been 10 or 12 people out on the range past 7 o'clock. So it was, I think this is a positive move to continue to increase the revenue, and then kudos for thinking about the light pollution. I didn't really pay that much attention to the lights that were out there, but I'm sure someone has.
I was going to follow up on Councilmember Shepard. I think Councilman Mitchum mentioned about we've tested, we've tested the lights, but I didn't know if, as a fiscal or a marketing concept, if that worked. But 10 to 12 people sounds like we're testing and it's successful, and there's a draw.
Yeah, we collected some data in December, and we had a very high spike right before Christmas, and then we closed for the Christmas week due to the weather. And then we started picking up traction again in January, but obviously with the freeze, we hit a little hiccup there. But I think in just January and December, we made roughly $1,000 additional, and I think that was like 16 days of operation. Once the word gets out there that it's lit sufficiently, we'll be one of the few driving ranges available at night within a 20-minute drive.
Now, is that additional 1,000? Was that just in driving range fees?
Yes.
So we're not talking about if they ate there, or they had a beer or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, we just documented the buckets purchased after the sun went down, as well as the weather, and we counted how many hitters were on the bay.
So it's probably more than that. Yeah. Well, good deal.
The last 2 times I've been there, I had to wait for a table. It's been pretty hopping. It's good food. Check it out if you haven't been yet.
Okay. Unless anyone else has got anything else to add, I would entertain a motion on this.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-06.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The ordinance passes unanimously. That brings us to item G5. Consider resolution 2025-10, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Half Associates, Inc. for the completion of a Safe Streets for All action plan. Austin Boyce, city manager.
Mayor and councilors, last month y'all authorized me to negotiate a contract with Half Associates for the creation of the Safe Streets for All action plan. This was done after going out for RFP. So we negotiated the contract. The contract amount here tonight is $120,000. That leaves $5,000 in the total project cost for grant administration fees that will incur. Based upon the contract work work will begin next month, and the plan will be to complete it by October 2025. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for community and stakeholder input and engagement. Council will see the recommendations, and the final plan will be presented to Council in October. This plan will be the basis to be used for future grants that we go after from US DOT to help fund some of the infrastructure improvements that this plan might recommend. We've been in contact with the federal USDOT for this program. I've been assured that the grant funding is already there. We've signed the contracts already, so that's all been secured, and that's obligated for this project. So there's been no concern about any of the presidential executive orders interfering with this one. So we're excited to work with HAF on this project. We're recommending council approve this resolution.
Okay, discussion amongst council on this.
Austin, what are some of the outcomes that other municipalities and communities that have used this? Does it involve road extensions or widenings or anything like that? Or
it can be road widenings. Some cities use it for bollards along higher traffic volume places. It could be intersection changes. There's been a wide variety of things. Anything that can help create a street be more safe for all modes of transportation, bike lanes, walkers, vehicles, anything like that. If you look around the country and see some of the other safety action plans, you'll see a wide variety of things that the plans have recommended.
Does this open up the city for future grant opportunities?
Yeah, we will use this plan as the basis to apply for future grants that can help with construction costs.
Yeah, I'll say that I know residents often will raise concerns about various elements of road safety out there, and this is a great opportunity for us to really get a good sense of what would work as far as making those streets safer. So, and the fact that it's funded through grant money makes it even better. So, yeah, all good. Unless anyone else has any further to discuss.
Just real quick, and this is the 125, the 120 plus the 5,000. That's all covered by DOT grant. Or is there a matching?
100,000 is covered by DOT. 25 is covered by the city. We're using the traffic safety fund for that cost. So it's not coming out of the general fund.
I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 2025-10.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes unanimously. Let's see, that brings us to mayor and council comments. I am going to start down at this end with Councilmember McCray.
Thank you. I don't really have anything today. Oh, I wanted to say happy birthday to my baby brother. Completely unrelated to anything, but I wanted to be able to see this. So,
Councilmember Rossi.
Okay, have a little list. Welcome, Courtney and Jennifer. We're excited to have you here, and Courtney, welcome back. Summer camp registration is open to residents, and I encourage anyone interested to sign up. A special work session is Wednesday at 6 p.m. I encourage anybody who is interested to take a look at the packet online. And if you haven't reached out, I urge you to come and give a public comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Thank you, JVPD and Fire Department, for all your hard work and dedication. We appreciate everything you do, and happy Valentine's Day coming up.
Councilmember Lawson.
Ditto what Connie said, and happy President's Day on Monday.
Councilmember Shepherd.
I don't have anything today.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchum.
I will also say happy birthday to Jennifer's brother, and happy Valentine's Day. If you haven't made reservations at Little Kitchen, they do a really cute pairing. It's really fun. Me and my two girls go every year, and it's a good tradition. Welcome, Courtney and Jennifer. You are now my new best friend. I don't know if you know that, but you inherited that from Lori. And really, really proud of the golf course for really showing up in these numbers. And happy to hear that you guys are liking the simulation stations. And it's not just golf, they also have basketball and frisbee things you can, yeah, it's like, it's a lot. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please go.
Okay, I'll also echo the welcome to Courtney and Jennifer. There's been a lot of discussion not only here but elsewhere regarding this new City Hall proposal. I definitely encourage folks to come out to the work session on Wednesday. Just want to make sure that folks know that council is looking at the data that you're looking at, and we're getting the first opportunity to be able to discuss as a council that information on Wednesday. So your feedback is welcome. We want to hear from people. I'm sure for anyone who actually goes, you're probably going to hear a lot of different opinions and a lot of feedback from us based on what we've heard from you and from what we've seen from all that documentation. So definitely encourage you to come out to hear us discuss that in more detail. It certainly will be the beginning of that conversation, but it will not be the end. I assure you of that. So with that, we are going to move into executive session. City Council is now going to retire to a closed session at 8:15 p.m. pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072, deliberations about real property, and Section 551.071, consultations with attorney on the item J1, pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072, deliberations about real property, and Section 551.071, consultations with attorney, a closed meeting to deliberate the potential and possible purchase, exchange, sale, or value of real property. We will return to the open session and continue with the remainder of tonight's agenda after the closed session deliberations are concluded.
Yeah.
Okay, the closed session was adjourned at 8:38 p.m. and no official action or vote was conducted during the closed session. That brings us to, I want to make sure I get the right place on here. Item L1, discuss and take appropriate action on items discussed in the executive session regarding the potential and possible purchase, exchange, sale, or value of real property.
I would like to authorize the city manager to negotiate an agreement as discussed in executive session.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The motion passes. That brings us to item M, meeting adjourned.